When he had finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley. On the other side there was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place, because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said. And Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they said. Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. If you are looking for me, then let these men go." This happened so that the words he had spoken would be fulfilled. "I have not lost one of those you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Jesus commanded Peter, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?"
When we envision someone with their hands bound, it inevitably conjures up a range of negative associations and emotions. The act of binding hands symbolises a loss of freedom, independence and control. It signifies a restriction on someone's ability to move, act or express themselves freely. It conveys thoughts of imprisonment, capture or detention, highlighting a sense of helplessness or vulnerability. But here in this passage, Jesus willingly allows his hands to be bound as he is placed under arrest. And yet far from being powerless, he does so in a display of unwavering courage and acceptance of what needs to be done. By leading his disciples to a familiar location, known also to Judas, he demonstrates a sense of purpose and divine intention even in the face of betrayal. He never shies away from the events about to unfold. This act of surrendering himself demonstrates Jesus' profound understanding of God's greater plan at work and his willingness to embrace his role in it. His prayer in the garden just a short time before, where he expresses with sweat and blood his human desire for an alternative way, and yet still yields to God's plan, displays the strength and humility of his character. And his act of surrender is an amazing example of both reliant faith and costly sacrifice. In fact, the image of Jesus allowing himself to be bound symbolises the ultimate sacrifice for the liberation of humanity from sin and death, and is a poignant reminder of the boundless, unrestricted love that God has for us all. Jesus' willingness to endure suffering in order to offer us true freedom highlights the depth of his compassion and the magnitude of his mission. It is through his unswerving commitment to love and redemption that we are able to experience the full extent of God's unconditional and infinite love for each one of us. As we reflect on these verses of the Easter story, we are reminded of the great depth of Jesus' sacrifice and the unyielding faith, conviction and grace with which he faced his impending trials. In contrast, we see Peter in this passage impassioned and impulsive, using his hands to draw a sword and cut off the ear of one of the guards. He is not ready to give up without a fight. This is not the way he wants the story to go, and so he tries to keep control, to change the outcome in his own strength. However, this approach soon proves to be counterproductive and destructive, leading Jesus to intervene and instruct Peter to stop, to yield, and to accept things the way they are. And as Peter lowers his sword and surrenders to the will of his teacher, Jesus reaches out his soon-to-be bound hand and touches the injured guard's ear, healing it instantly. This is the fear-challenging side of faith. Peter just wants to protect and guard what is important to him, in this case Jesus. But Jesus knows that the only way through is by relinquishing control and submitting to the Father's will. As we consider the events surrounding Jesus' arrest and the contrasting reactions of Jesus and Peter, we uncover important lessons of faith, surrender, and the transformative power of letting go. Jesus' acceptance of being bound symbolises a selfless act of courage and demonstrates his absolute commitment to fulfilling God's divine plan. In contrast, Peter's impulsive attempt to control the situation only leads to chaos and is gently corrected by Jesus, who teaches him the importance of yielding to God's sovereignty. Reflecting on these accounts, we might find parallels in our own lives, in which we struggle to relinquish control and trust in God's plan. But by releasing our grip on outcomes and placing our trust in God, we open ourselves to new opportunities that can enrich our lives and bring glory to God in ways beyond our imagination. This passage reminds us of the significance of trusting God during moments of uncertainty and submitting to his purposes with obedience. After all, the Easter story serves as a beacon of hope, illustrating the immense impact our faith can have when we submit to his ways. So as we enter into Holy Week, may we draw strength from this account, finding solace in the knowledge that we can trust God in all things, and that as we let go, we allow him to work, bringing forth fresh possibilities, unexpected blessings, or even resurrect surrendered hopes and dreams in new and exciting ways.